Hey guys, welcome back to Within the Cauldron. We are talking about the darker paths today. Um, it's me, Nico, and then we of course have the lovely Chrissy with us. And joining us, we have Mama Mage and Zoe.
Hi.
And
Hello.
Mama Mage is a left-hand path practitioner in Luciferian, and Zoe is a Satanist.
Well, welcome you two. We are very excited. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and so I'm kind of glad that you guys came forward and said, "Yeah, we do it." so, um, I think I just want to tell the audience that, you know, it's a darker path according to some, but to me, it's just a spiritual path, just a lifestyle. Okay, just like anything else. Um, we have diversity in within the cauldron, and this is something that is that some people do not know and misunderstand. So hopefully, these two ladies will kind of shed some light on that. Okay. So the first question, um, I think Zoe, I will ask you. So, what does a Satanist believe?
I think it's different for everyone. Crystal and I share very similar beliefs. I think in a lot of what we do and a lot of what we focus on. But I think it's different from everyone, and I think Mama Mage will share a little bit more about the difference between TST and kind of the history of all of that as well.
Cool. So, how did you get
Yeah, so I can jump in
into
here. Oh, go
this?
ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did you get into this, Zoe, to be a
Oh yeah,
Satanist?
definitely. So I found Mama Mage and a few other witches. We used to do full moon readings, and I loved it. And it was so much fun. Every full moon, we'd come in and we'd all get our cards read. I thought it was very interesting because not a single person did tarot, and I thought tarot was kind of the main one. So later, getting more connected and learning a little bit more, and having Mama Mage suggest specific things to look into. I remember this would have been just before COVID, so this would have been 2019, 2020, early 2020, I think 2019. We had a person reach out to us who needed help from a domestic violence situation.
Mhm.
And we were able to call on a specific demon through path working, which is essentially like a visualization. And you go through, and then you're able to ask the demon what you need them to do. And I just remember doing that working and being so astonished at how fast I felt that it worked. And I think with a lot of other practices that I had experienced by then, everything takes time. There's rules to everything. There's a lot of, you have to do this and you have to do this, and it has to be this time of day and this, lunation and, and these all these pieces. And we're doing this path working. Mind you, it's 5 to 7 minutes long.
Mhm.
I don't even know the person that we're sending out aid to. Um, but I just remember being like, "Hi, don't know this person. This person is in a dangerous situation. Like, I need your help." And it was gone. The
Mhm.
energy was gone the second that I asked for help. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, that's so cool. And wanting to really dive in and do more and learn more. And that was the open door. That was what did it.
Wow. Crystal, how about you? The same questions with your answers.
Okay, sure. So I am a member of the Satanic Temple as well, which is a non-theistic group. But as far as being a Luciferian goes, for a long time, I think in my path, I was very resistant to things like that because
Mhm.
I probably felt like a lot of people do it. It just seems scary, right?
Yeah.
But then I started working with more and more spirits and entities and deities. And then I started going down the demon path of working with some demons. And
Mhm.
like Zoe described, the thing with demons is it's almost immediate. I mean, they're there, they work with you so quickly and so fast. And I really, really liked that. And then somebody said, you might want to check out Lucifer sometime.
And then the more I researched about Lucifer, the more I discovered he is not, even the Lucifer in the Bible. In the Bible, Lucifer actually just refers to morning star or Venus. Christianity in the Bible demonized Lucifer and the demons, who are actually pagan gods, ancient pagan gods, and made Lucifer their devil. But Lucifer is not even a person in the Bible or being in the Bible, like, at all. So Lucifer's historical roots come from Greco-Roman mythology, where he was the morning star, basically Venus personified, and was the light bringer and all about enlightenment. And once I started working with Lucifer, who I worked with through pathworking, which is just, like Zoe said, that series of images that are keys to connect with the Lucifer or whoever you're working with, that connection was immediate. It was just, this is a bond. This is meant to be. This is who I'm really, really meant to work with. It's a very warm, very, very loving, protective, fatherly energy. He will always refer to me in pathworking as child. And it's just really cool. So, Zoe is a part of, like, my magical family, and I've got this really awesome magical family. We all are pretty much on very similar paths, but yet, individual and different as well.
Yeah. Cool. I know when I was in Salem, I was so excited to go to the Satanic Temple. I don't know. Did you see the statue of Baphomet? That was that was, the children was around him.
Yeah.
Okay. When I first saw that, I cried. I mean, I cried my eyes out because it was so beautiful. And this woman who, I don't know what path she was, and she was just like, how disgusting that you are crying over the statue. And I'm like, why is it disgusting? Because he's the devil. And I'm just like, I was so upset, and I was crying because I was happy because I saw the statue. I just turned away and just walked away from her because I didn't know for sure what to say, and I was in tears. And when you're in tears, you just don't want to talk to nobody. But yeah, it's beautiful statue, isn't it, Crystal?
Oh, it really is. I'm surprised there was someone in there who was kind of, negative about, because when we were in, I think everybody was very much, on the same wavelength as far as everyone was a member of the Satanic Temple, and they were fairly strict. I don't know if it was like that when you got there. We had to ring the buzzer, and there was pretty high security because of all the threats they get. But the statue is beautiful, and I know my daughter and I took pictures around it. We were posing all sorts of ways with Baphomet there because it's a very cool statue. Yeah,
it's a beautiful statue. It is. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if you can look it up or anything.
I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah, I think I have found pictures of it online as well.
Maybe if you go to Satanic Temple of Salem, you might be able to look it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if Iowa has a site or not, but it's a beautiful statue. It is.
For those that don't know what Baphomet looks like, Baphomet, I came prepared.
He came prepared.
There you go. This is my mini one.
Yeah, the statue's like that. It has, just imagine the children around it and everything. And it's just, it is gorgeous. It really is. Okay. Sorry, Nick. Your turn.
So on with the Baphomet, what symbols are associated with Satanism, the left-hand path, and Luciferianism that people may not know about? Because I'm sure a lot of people have very little idea about any of these practices.
Yeah. There's so many because there's a wealth of demons and all of them have their own sigils. I think the bigger ones are going to be Lucifer's sigil, which is kind of like an upside down triangle with some little legs. We've got Leviathan, which I don't really work that closely with Leviathan, but Leviathan is kind of the infinity sign with the line up top.
Yep.
Lilith, who kind of, I was like, I have a Lilith thing on my fridge. I'm trying to see. It's the H, I believe. There are hundreds. There are so many. I find myself working the most with like I have Lucifer sigil on a lot of things. I've got it on a necklace. I've got it on a notebook. I've got it on a pen. I use his underneath forge thing. So like
Mhm.
by default, like that is also part. Those are the bigger ones for me that I have. Mama Mage has so many beautiful like jewelry pieces, and I'm gonna put you on spot with that. Yep.
Okay, let's see. There we go.
Oh, I love that.
Oh,
Okay,
awesome.
so that particular medallion comes from a working that I did. Here we go.
Cool. Yeah.
Ooh.
So the working is the Infernal Colapatiron, or the Nectameron Gates. And it's a working that you do that has to do with the Nectameron of Apollonius of Tyana. And Apollonius of Tyana was a Greek philosopher who supposedly many miracles are attributed to him, kind of was parallel to the story of Jesus. But he has a Nectameron, and they took that Nectameron and made it into a series of path workings. It's done now in every hour of a 12-hour thing. And it was a really profound working for me. So I do wear this medallion all the time because it represents those infernals that you work with when you do the gate opening ritual. But going back to the other, symbols, like the most common symbol would be the inverted pentagram. And even in, people who are right-hand path using the pentagram that's, right side up, not inverted, people still get freaked out about the pentagram and they're like, ooh, scary, because such a scary thing. But if you have ever seen the Disney cartoon on sacred geometry, it's very, very old, and it's Donald Duck teaching you all about sacred geometry all the way through, but it really breaks down what the pentagram really is, which is just a really cool bit of sacred geometry that represents the golden ratio. Okay, I'm all about Pythagoras and all that cool math and sacred geometry stuff. And so, the pentagram, people get scared of it. And I'm like, no, it's really just a cool bit of sacred geometry.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. But then the Lucifer sigil is one you'll see quite a bit. And you said you have it all over the place, Zoe. And I actually have a tattoo on my back of a spider and a web. And Lucifer sigil is just worked into that web very cleverly. And it's really cool. So, yeah. And then all the various sigils. Zoe and I are in the middle of a big, long working that we've been doing for 6 months ish. Yeah. And so we've worked through so many different sigils for each different working that we've been doing. So yeah, those are the main symbols, I think. And of course, with Baphomet, you've got the 2 fingers up and the 2 fingers down.
Yep.
And that just means as above, so below. And it really comes from Hermes, from the Hermetic, principles and ideas, and that little bit of history. Yeah.
Or, yeah, I'm trying to send a picture of the statue I was talking about. Nick, I'm going to send it to you and see if you can put it up. If I can get it. There we go. Okay.
So I have a couple images of Lucifer, but I don't have the statue on my computer at the moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it up for you.
I think TST's Instagram might also have it as well.
Tobias Conley. Why do I not have that one then?
Yeah, did you get it?
Let me refresh.
Okay, refresh. I'm sorry. I'm just really, this statue to me is just, I just love it.
Oh, it really is gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is. So I guess, Zoe, how about you? What is the answers to what we just asked Crystal? Are the same thing or a little bit different?
I would say so. Would you be able to repeat the question?
Okay. For the symbols, what kind of symbols does the path have for you? I know there's a saying, there's a saying that I'm in a few satanic group, and they always says grand rising, and they always say horns over halos and swords over crosses. Is that still a saying that you do, or is that just something they? Because Facebook groups, you don't know for sure if you get into the real thing or not. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is, and I'm sure Mama Mage can attest to this as well. We do a little bit more of kind of chaos working, which is there are rules. We kind of go by our own rules, and I think that's one of the only reason, or one of the main reasons that working with demons in particular has been so interesting to me. Because there's not as many, like, you have to do this to do this to do this. I've never been someone who believes in the rule of thirds. I've never been someone who, does all of those things. I think it is great to be a good person. And that should be kind of at the core of what you do regardless.
Do you ever have somebody who says, "Oh, you're a horrible person because you're a Satanist," or do they get scared of you when you say, "I'm a Satanist"?
That's so funny that you say that, because yes. And if you know me, you know that, like, my hair is blonde, I'm very bubbly, my nails are always, done up, and so I do not look like someone who would do this work. By any means. Don't act like it, don't look like it, I'm wearing my cuddle duds today, but sometimes I have a collar on. It's cold out here in Southern California. I purposely, for that exact reason, I wait a little bit before I tell someone. I suss it out a little bit before I say. I will edge in a little bit about, what I focus on. And I think even the people who are very open to it or are removed from traditional Christianity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think a lot of this fear stems from, there is, without a doubt, still a moment, every single person that I will tell, where they step back a little bit, they jump, maybe not physically, but there is a pause, right? And then when I explain a little bit about who is Lucifer, who is Satan, who are the demons that I work with, they know me to be a good person at that point. So they realize that, okay, it can't be that bad, right? Sometimes they just will not talk about that with me, which is fine. Sometimes there's questions that follow up of, like, but what about this and what about that? And for example, like the Satanic Temple, the Satanic Temple is completely non-theistic. And while I ascribe to that, I was denied membership. So because I am theistic, I believe in power. And so, I think all of those pieces as well, it's interesting in way, like, in how you're perceived. I've never had anyone be like, "Oh, I can't talk to you anymore. I can't," I've never had a dramatic reaction such as that.
Right.
But, and I think going back to the sigils and the symbols thing, most people don't recognize it. And one thing in particular, I think, as we're starting to see the Satanic Panic come back, Longlegs, the movie, they had Lucifer sigil. And I don't think a single person knew
anything about it.
And I was psyched. I was like, "This one boy up there on the screen."
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think it's different for everyone. And I think because there are so many symbols associated with demons, demonology, it's so open, so broad. I think it really does. You're hearing me say this a million times. I think it's different, and it's something, it is a path that I think you can personalize completely to yourself, to your beliefs, to your values, to your goals, to your aspirations, visions.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that about this path.
Yeah. Awesome. Nick, I think, did you get the picture? I saw it up and then.
1 second. Let me pull her back.
Okay.
Share screen. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, let me add it to stage.
You'll have to add me. Yep. I have no power.
There you go. There you go. This is the statue that I'm talking about. I mean, just when you look at it, you probably think, oh gosh, what's going on? But it's just like the statue of Jesus and the children, so why not him and the children instead? But it's beautiful because how both the kids are looking up at him and just like admiring him, it's gorgeous. I'm sorry. I just love it.
No, I agree. Like within the context, like Baphomet is a symbol of duality, which is why Baphomet's associated as a intersex being, the as above, so below, and the pursuit of knowledge, which is why the children are looking up towards Lucifer. And it really is a beautiful imagery and icon, like in a whole. And but people get afraid when you slap horns on something and think that it's evil. We see that way too much. And like
Yeah.
absolutely, like what was it? A couple months ago I got assaulted at the grocery store for wearing my Baphomet shirt. Like this t-shirt. I had a woman throw holy water on me in the soup aisle while I'm shopping for groceries, and she starts trying to pray the demons away from me. And so, being the slightly petty person that I am, I replied back to her in German, and she thought I was summoning demons. And she fell to the floor, clutching her pearls, and ran away. And I hope that I live rent free in her head for the rest of her life. But, like, you don't do that to people. Like, I'm shopping for groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. Being even, I have a tattoo of the crescent moon, and a lot of people will says, "Oh, that's Sailor Moon, the anime," and I'm like, no, it's not." But I can see where they're coming from, as because I like anime too. I know about it, and then when I tell them, they kind of like, okay, okay. That's kind of like all they say is like crickets after that. They don't know what to say. But if I say, "Oh yes, it's Sailor Moon," oh my God, they're just talking like crazy, everything. So it's weird how that happens, but it's yeah, it's just above their heads for a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think Christianity has conditioned us. I did not grow up in a church. I was baptized, but have been in a church a total of 7 times. And at least 3 of those were for school events where we had our prom and after prom there. And so, but I think that fear carries no matter what, because this country in particular is built so aligned with Christianity, Satan is bad. You have to be turning towards the light at all times, that it is so embedded.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. So Nick, I think you have the next question. I kind of got lost in the moment. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Which should be an interesting one. So, for both of you, is your view on, I guess, your cosmology with how things were created in the universe any different than, say, pagans or anything like that? I mean, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the thing that I always say about creation is, the cool thing is I really don't know. And I think it's cool that none of us really, really know. But on the other hand, when I did go through the gate openings, part of that, one of the gate openings had to do with creation. And because it's a deep path working and you're going very much within, I was able to experience what creation was like. But then again, I wouldn't say that that is what creation really was, because this was very personal. And this was, my subconscious telling me what creation maybe might have been like. But what I experienced when I went through that was that, yes, when humans were created, they all, like all the demons, Lucifer, everybody who's on that, and I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. The easiest way to think about the deities and the demons and Lucifer and everyone, the best analogy that was ever put to me was that it's a giant crystal. Okay,
Mhm.
all of creation, everything that is just one huge giant crystal with many, 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 many facets, and some facets are bigger than others. And I think Lucifer had said to someone in a hypnotic interview that he was just one of the bigger facets.
I love
So
that.
yeah. So all these beings that are on this facet, when humans were created, they really did celebrate, because the thing that we have and the gift that we really have that they don't all have is the reality, is this hard clay-like existence that we have that is solid. That it has gravity. And we might not always think it's the best thing because we feel very limited, but it's an existence that the deities and the beings on that facet, the rest of them don't always have. So when we were created, we were very much, they did celebrate, not that we are better than them or greater than them. It was just, we were something they were very proud of. But in my vision of that, it was all of these demons, all of these ancient gods that were just like, yes, finally, because there we were. I don't know how we were created or how that all came about. And I think it's cool that we don't really know. That's my answer.
Yeah, I could not have said that better. The facet, the thinking of everything as it is as a big crystal is one of my favorite analogies to date. That clicked for me. I am a science girl through and through. I love science. I think that's, again, like one of the reasons that Demons clicked so much to me. And like you said, yeah, I think there's excitement in the unknown, and I think that there is, I don't know, it's a cool thing. And I think, no matter if it was the fish that decided to walk out of water and that's why I have to pay bills today, or if it's something in between, I'm happy for it. And I think no matter what, everything had to celebrate, I think it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Right. Let's make one thing clear, because I know some people would be like, oh, you sacrifice children, or you do some kind of medieval blood rites or something. Yeah. Can you just tell the audience that is something you guys don't do?
I'll go first. So I'm a teacher. I'm an elementary music teacher. I have taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little elementary children throughout my life. So yeah, no, I love the children. I absolutely would not ever sacrifice any of them. And that is definitely not what we're about. And it is, in terms of sacrifice, if there is any sort of a sacrifice that's going to be made, it's going to be something that I would give up. Or, I mean, sometimes I know people will do their own finger prick. But absolutely, we would not ever harm any other living creature, at all. Like, I can't even hurt a fly, I mean, I love living things so much that I would never ever hurt them. So that's what I have to say about that.
I think that goes as a whole for most pagans, is that people also think that about us.
Yeah.
And I when I tell people I'm a witch, that is hands down one of the first two questions that they ask me. Do you worship the devil? And do you sacrifice children? Hands down, the first two questions. And it's like, as a folk practitioner, do I work with animal parts? Yes, ethically sourced and no suffering to the animal. But I'm not going out of my way to go grab a live chicken. Like, modern paganism, if we're sacrificing something, it's of ourself, or we're burning herbs and candles and time and energy. Like, these are our sacrifices. They aren't. There are practices that may still do animal sacrifice, like Santeria, but that isn't inherently wrong in that practice. And it's just a thing that it still astounds me that people are so stuck on that.
Oh yeah,
like it's a quick Google search.
Yep,
it is. I know when I don't know if you ever took the satanic tour in Salem or not, Crystal, but Thomas, I can't think of his name. Thomas O'Brien something. He's a tour guide, long hair, cutie. You know, he he always says that we don't sacrifice anything because that's a question that always comes up. He says when they do the walking tour and stuff. It's like, really? That's a question that come up, right? They don't care about anything else, just that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And even I can talk about the Satanic Temple's views on that as well, because there are 7 tenets to the Satanic Temple. And one of them is one's body, is your own choice. Everybody is entitled to what happens to their own body and is in charge of what happens to their own body. And there are bumper stickers at the Satanic Temple, which I need to get one sometime. It says, "Our religion is against hitting children," because it is. The Satanic Temple is a very non-violent, religion, even though it is non-theistic.
And it's one of the only religions that has that as a core tenet. Like, just outright as a core tenet, consent and bodily autonomy as a core tenet. And that was astounding when I found that out when I first looked into Satanism, and I was like, this isn't a part of more religions? Like, why? Like,
Yeah. When I think we're gonna go out to Salem sometime this year. I think in July. I'll pick you up a bumper sticker. So I need to go back there anyway too. So yes, I'm definitely pick you up on and send it to you.
Yeah, such a great place to visit.
so I think that
Salem itself is just a great place. It's my town. I've been there so many times. I can tell you almost every street that in line, so where the bathrooms are, where Peabody is, and everything. So yeah, it's a great town. If you haven't been to Salem, you have to go. Just don't go in October. It's so busy.
Don't do it.
The Samhain
Yeah,
rituals and
unless you
stuff.
want to go for the Samhain atmosphere, that's fine. Okay, back to you, Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. So we kind of touched on this, but can you guys expand more on what your beliefs in deity, as far as like the infernal divine, Satan, go, and are those from specific religions, or do you worship other deities as well?
Okay, I'll start that one. So first of all, that word worship, I would take out of my practice completely. I don't worship anything. There is no worshiping going on. It is I work alongside. And Lucifer, I am the closest to of all the deities that I work with. But again, I don't worship Lucifer. There is no act of worship there. Honor, respect, all of that, absolutely, but not worship. I know at one time, the group that Zoe and I are both a part of, we had worked with both Lucifer and in the book that we were working out of, they called Satan Shatan. And we had done path workings with both. And what I determined from those path workings is they were very much an aspect of each other, except that Shatan or Satan was more tribal and more wild and more rough and more just a little bit unhinged. And then Lucifer was the very refined, very elegant, very sophisticated version of that being. I also really like, Hecate is a favorite of mine. Some of the goddesses, Lilith. I went through a personal thing many years ago, and there were 3 goddesses who I felt came to me and worked with me and worked me through it, and that was Ostara, Lilith, and Hecate. And it's just the 3 of them, not Lilith, it was Kali the Destroyer, and the 3 of them worked together. So it was like this nice trinity of goddesses that they got me through it, because Kali tore down what I didn't need anymore, and then Hecate brought magic into the whole thing, and then Ostara was the spring and the new life that was coming out of it all. So there you go.
Yeah. I think I've always believed that they will find you when they are ready.
Yep.
And I think that's how I found most of them. Like Mama Mage, Lucifer, I've always been very drawn to. And sometimes the practice is quite literally just, oh my God, I've lost my keys. Lucifer, where'd I put my keys? And one of the things that he's great at is helping you find things, like speeding things up, speeding up the process. And so it is not uncommon for me to be walking around my house being like, Lucifer, I need your help. And so, and I'll do that around other people too. And things will appear, and they'll appear very quickly. And it's usually in those moments too that they'll stop for a minute and they're like, what did you just do? And I'm like, I asked him for help and he helped. Sometimes the practice is that easy. And I definitely mirror exactly, I don't think we worship as much as we work with. It is like having a team of cheerleaders who are like, we're ready for you. We're so happy for you. What can we do for you to like help you? Yep. And I think, we've worked with angels, we've worked with demons, we've worked with spirits, we've worked with so many different entities, and they all respond very differently. And I think keeping that wide open and being able to utilize anything as you need it is great. Yeah. Working that we're doing right now, the long one, we are, some of them are spirits, some of them are angels, some of them are demons. This last one that we're working with is a demon specific for wealth. And I love the practice. And I think I was telling them as well, I'm like, it's just so fast. It just happens so quickly. I'm a Virgo. I like things to be done high and tight and on time. And so I think, that's fun. I have, there's a couple authors that I really, really like, but there's a book in particular that has, it's like a grimoire of sorts, and it has a bunch of demons and what they all do. And I think it's like the 52 hidden demons or something like that. You'll have to help me out.
Ars Goetia?
No. Based loosely on that. I do like that one too.
Was it the Theodore Rose, Lucifer and the Hidden Demons?
Yes, there it is. Yes, Lucifer and the Hidden Demons. And I like it because it has sigil, what they can help with, path working, and then I think there's a little bit more information on each person. Each demon. And I'll flip through that. If I'm interviewing for a job, what do I need? If I'm trying to get if I'm moving and I need support with that, what do I need? So we see it in a way of which, like, who can I call on to assist me with a specific thing? Because there's like an expert for everything. And I love that.
Cool. Okay. Why don't you guys put the book in the private chat and I can send it out to our audience there. Also, I know one of my satanic friends, he was trying to tell me, how he came in and everything into the practice and stuff. He read the book. He said, I have to read it. I haven't read it yet. It's in my cart, like tons of other books. The Devil's Notes. Have you both heard of that book?
The Devil's Notes? I think I've read that. I've read some of the older text, mid to older texts. I really liked The Devil of America and Great Britain, which I believe is 1880s, because it puts a very interesting perspective on like the specific archetype of the devil that I work with. Which most of my practice stems from the 16th through the 19th century. So it kind of puts it right square in the belief of the time.
So I probably should delete that book in my Amazon cart and add this book in.
There's a lot. I mean, there's some good ones.
Yeah, and Lucifer and the Hidden Demons is basically like a directory of who you need to call and when. So it doesn't give you a lot of information in terms of like about them or about the practice, about it. Yeah, it's more just here's a list of demons that you can call on when you need them. It's a great book though. I love it.
Great. I think we have some comments here. Let me see here. Let's try Christopher. Nick, you want to read it?
Working with is better because you're equals with who you are working with his coworkers in reality, dancing rather than worshiping, giving your power to an entity and having none for yourself. I agree with that because in my practice, I also work with spirits. I don't attempt to control spirits or put them in front of me because we're on working terms.
And Scott.
It's good. I would like to go and see the temple. It would be a good learning experience. Absolutely. There's a couple around the country too. I know Salem has one. I
Mhm.
believe
We have
uh,
one too, don't we, Crystal, in the state of Iowa?
There's
think
an Iowa Satanic Temple. I
there's,
don't have a headquarters though.
we have one here in Nebraska as well. There's one out of there's an Omaha chapter,
Nice.
and if I remember right, Des Moines has a statue of Baphomet as well, or they did at one point, and then I
Okay,
think there
that's-
may have
yeah.
the city may have petitioned to remove it. I can't
Well,
remember.
it's kind of a fun story. And it's funny, I just did a presentation on the Satanic Temple last night for the Human Rights Commission in Cedar Falls, because I am also a human rights commissioner. So, so that whole story we had in 2023, we were able to put up a statue or a display for the holidays in the rotunda of the Capitol building. And it was a really beautiful, they called it Disco Baphomet because it was all tiled and, all mirrored, and it was really cool. But somebody drove up from way down south, this super ultra Christian, and he beheaded it. And, he is now facing charges for that. But that statue is up in the Satanic Temple in Salem now. So it is, and they've called it Resilience. So that's where our display is. And then, of course, this year they canceled our display like days before it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So again, we're working, in Iowa, we're working, through the legal route. So trying to fix some of that.
Yeah, I think we had bad weather that day or something, or was coming up.
There was bad weather too.
Yeah.
But they canceled it, not because of the weather, just
Not
they were
because
Yeah, it was
afraid
the
of
vandalism.
They were afraid of Krampus, actually. They had a Krampus costume contest, and they decided like 2 days before the event, they went through the schedule of what we had, and they said, well, Krampus would be harmful to minors, and decided. And then we said, well, we'll take Krampus out of it, but they weren't going to budge.
I mean, I don't see how Krampus would be harmful to minors, but I'm also a Germanic.
Scary. He just looks scary. That's it.
So we're a half of the spirits in German folklore. Everything wants to punish children for not doing their farm work.
For me, being a mother of 4, we took our kids everywhere. Pagan events, this and that. I mean, they've seen a lot and everything. But I'm glad I did because they are so diverse, well-rounded and everything, that they know everything what goes on. So I'm glad I did. But some parents are just like, they want to keep their kids' clothes off, shelter and stuff. I, as a parent, don't believe in that. But I'm not probably the best parent around either. So I'm probably like
You're a
anything.
fantastic parent. Don't lie.
But we got another comment here.
Yeah, Ashaitan. Yep. Another word for Satan is Shaitan or Ashaitan. And then you have what is it? The Luciferge. There's plenty. There's so many names.
Mm-hmm.
You even have the folkloric names like Old Scratch and the Dark One. Ye Who Walks in the Forest.
And we have one from my sister Sherry across the pond.
We call this for daddy sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
More often than not, we refer to him as Daddy.
Yeah. I've done it too. I won't lie.
He's just got
not
such
all what it
perfect
seems.
father energy.
He
I
really
know,
does.
right?
Yep,
You're not
100%.
all what it seems. A lot of beliefs are misunderstood. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's why I love that we get to do this one, because I know that it might ruffle some people's feathers, and I'm absolutely okay with that. And I am a huge proponent in squashing misinformation. And obviously, I work with the folkloric devil, so I had to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm the same. This is why Nick and I are family. We are a family that our black sheeps. Nobody doesn't want to touch us.
The whole
Probably,
family.
which is okay. We just need each other, right, Nick?
Yep. I would say there's like maybe 8 or 9 practitioners in our family,
Yeah, yeah. And
which
we have
is
big
a huge
family.
amount for some people, but like
Yeah.
we're the only ones in like our entire extended family, so we got to stick together.
That's true. One more here. This is from Scott.
So I opener didn't realize there was more to satanic beliefs and the world portrays it to be so interesting. Absolutely. There's so many facets of it too, because you have theistic, atheistic, you have Luciferianism as a philosophy and as a like religious structure. You have left hand path working with the infernal divines. You have like pantheists who believe that everything exists and that there's spirit in everything. And then like you have old traditional witchcraft, which works with the folkloric devil, and there's so many ways to approach it, or so many facets to and a range of beliefs within like a similar structure.
And
You're
so
right.
often all of those intertwine too. I think.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
all of
And
us.
we-
I mean,
Yeah,
have-
and we all get along.
yeah.
We do. Well, some of us do. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some that's like, I can't believe this is happening right now. So,
Well, I mean, there's like a level of respect within
Yeah.
like most like non-Abrahamic
the
practices.
true ones. Always says the true ones who's true to the beliefs that are really open and diverse. They're the real ones. That's what I would
Yep.
say. So back to some questions here. What is the best thing about being on the path you're on? If you could
Ooh.
name one thing. I know that's hard.
Do you want to go first?
I can, yeah.
I don't think.
So I think it is the freedom that comes with my path. My path is very free. And that is kind of what Lucifer and even Satan and the Satanic Temple very much embody for me is that freedom. I don't follow a ton of rules in my practice. I respect certain things in my practice, but I guess I never really feel like I have to follow a certain particular rule. I can choose to, but I can also choose not to. So for me, the best thing about my path is the freedom that I experience following this path.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really well said.
I think she said that for all of us.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I feel that way. And Nick does. So yeah.
There's not a huge, we're a non-dogmatic tradition, so there's, outside of our own personal ethics and taboos, there's very little that we can do. You have freedom to pick and choose which pantheons you follow, like if you're going to be a baneful practitioner or not, if you're going to hold yourself to certain standards. And like that's ultimately the beauty, I think, that draws all of us to it, is that we either come from a place of religious trauma where we don't like the structure that's involved, or we were looking for things like community with freedoms, or some people come from marginalized groups that they're under oppression and stigma and looking for a place that they're welcomed with open arms. And I think that's how a lot of us get where we're at, which I love, because ultimately, like, I don't think I'd be doing this. Well, besides the results, like, the community is fantastic.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about, we have all chose this to be what we practice.
Yep.
We weren't raised like this. And I think there's power in that too. These are things that we've explored enough to be like, this is my home.
Yeah.
This is where I want to be. This is what I want to believe in. I think aside from the freedom of it, just the versatility, there's so much you can do, and you were getting into that as well, but being able to work for yourself and for others and work. I mean, we've done things for political, we've done things for the world, we've done things for ourselves, we've done things for friends, we've done things for strangers, right? And it was such an appealing facet for me because there was not another religion that I saw that was like that.
Mhm.
That in the core is actually for ourselves, for others. I have a long activist background, so that was something that I knew that I wanted to practice. I could do for myself, but also work on behalf of others and on behalf of human rights and the world, and all of those pieces as well.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple more questions here. Then we go on to the next question. There you go, Nick.
Scott A. Florida does have satanic temples. Just looked it up. Awesome. I think most states, I want to say most states have some form of a satanic temple or church congregation, whether they have a full temple or church structure. You probably have a congregation.
Yeah.
They're kind of all over the U.S. and in various parts of the world, which I absolutely love.
Oh, I did too. I think our paths are becoming more popular nowadays. And I'm glad, because this is the time we need each other, no matter which path we're on, to come together as one voice. Okay, last one here.
Chris, the more diverse your beliefs, the more fertile your mental garden. Absolutely. Try on as many hats as you can. You'll find one that you like eventually. And you might have multiple hats. I'm in 3 traditions, and then religiously, I'm a Norse Germanic pagan, but I also do a folk magic practice that doesn't involve the Norse pagan gods and works with the folkloric devil. And then I'm also working with Santa Muerte.
It's all about diversity,
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay, Nick, what's up?
Let's see. So as far as with the left-hand path, what are some common practices associated with it?
Okay, so left-hand path. I think there's a big misconception that when you're doing left-hand path work, you are just cursing and hexing like mad. That's what I always get from people. When you say your left-hand path, they think, well, left-hand path is evil and bad, right-hand path is good, but that's not so. So what left-hand path really is a spiritual practice that is about self-empowerment. And it's very much about breaking those societal norms. And like I mentioned before, it's a lot about breaking those rules or not following rules. On left-hand path, we absolutely do not believe in a threefold, kind of law of return. And I even struggle with karma sometimes. I just don't necessarily believe everything always evens out. And I also think that's okay, because I think that just kind of exemplifies the wildness of what this existence really is, and how, how it can go on. Like, I know, like in the Freemasons use like that black and white checkered floor quite a bit. And I had asked a Freemason who I knew exactly what that, represented. And what it really represents is that path you're walking. Like, you can really go to dark side or light side, like whenever. I mean, you could go one way or the other. And it's all really very much about balance. And left-hand path, I think we're a little bit more about balance, just because we're not out hexing everybody, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't, like I have a saying, it's always okay to hex, certain people.
List. I get a lot of debates on that. I get a lot of debates on it, and it's like,
there's some traditions that don't, and that's absolutely fine. But they have no right policing people and practices that do, because we're not in the tradition that says we can't.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing with left-hand path. It's just we challenge some of those more traditional ideas of morality, and we focus a little bit more on balance. And like Zoe had mentioned before, and I had forgotten all about that incident. I'm glad you mentioned it. The domestic violence one for a stranger. When we were saying, help her, get her out of this situation. And I had forgotten all about that working. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
We
So,
didn't
you know,
even
that's
have
an
a name
event of
for
we
this
were
person.
doing, yeah, we were doing a little bit of baneful magic. But that's not what we do all the
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
That doesn't mean that's not what defines being a left-hand path. Yeah, there.
Yeah. But even then, I don't even think it was necessarily like baneful in the sense of if we're causing harm to this person who's causing harm. It's give her the supports that she needs to GTFO to get out of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
And
without
now-
telling the demon exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
We just
Oh, yeah.
help her. Yeah.
That's the thing I love
We
is
needed to build a
that
bridge.
when you're working with spirits like that, it took me a long time to come to terms with I'm not responsible for what this spirit's going to do to that person, and it is entirely out of my hands, and I don't have to feel guilty about that, what happens to them, because they're getting what that spirit feels is appropriate.
Mhm. Yep. How about the law of three? How
We
do you,
just covered
what's
that.
we just got well, yeah, but the audience may not know. You know,
Well, I guess we
sometimes
should
have, we don't have the smart
explain.
people. We have, people who wants
I mean,
to know
there's
more. They
yeah.
want knowledge.
Well, we should explain what the rule of three is. So the rule of three comes out of Wicca, which is mostly associated with Gerald Gardner, and that was what you put out 3 times will be returned to you, or what you put out will return to you 3 times more,
Mhm.
which was then, for lack of better terms, bastardized and turned into this weird karmic reflection of
Mhm.
what you put out comes back to you 3 times when its original intent was for every good thing that happens to you, bless your community 3 times fold. It was never about karma, it was about charity. And but I'm also not in a tradition that directly works with the threefold law, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and does that scare off anybody when you say that?
Yes, when I tell people that I will curse people and that I do not believe in, or that I will be their karma, it terrifies people, particularly
Yeah.
Wiccans, because Wicca is one of the largest proponents of the threefold law,
Mhm.
and I have a huge beef with the Wiccans who have not deconstructed their Christianity when they moved into Wicca, and then feel
Mhm.
that they're portraying some holier than thou thing
Yeah.
upon me when I'm going off of my morals. Like, I'm not going to directly go out there and like try to off somebody, unless like we'll meet equal force with equal force. But like, I'm also not responsible for what my spirits do to somebody when I'm not directly telling them what I want them to do. But like, when we're doing spells like this, like I'm going against like people who have sexually assaulted. I'm going against people on the sex offender registry. Like I'm going against abusers, like things like that. Like somebody who's directly wronged and harmed my friends and family, and like that's met with equal. But also, I'm a Reiki master. I'm a healer. I'm an educator. I have a PhD. Like I people can vilify my like baneful practice all they want, but at the end of the day, I feel like I'm doing good by doing it because I'm directly targeting people that I feel very much deserve it, and I'm helping
Yeah.
people in the process.
Yeah. That's how I feel. How about you two? Are you two pretty much the same on this?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had kind of said before, it's our practice is not defined by hexing people
Mhm.
or cursing
Yeah.
people. In fact, it would be something I would rarely do, but
Yeah.
I will not say that I haven't ever done it. Absolutely I have.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that there are times when I feel in the right to do it. So,
yeah.
and like you said, going against the people who are truly doing really bad things out there in the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is. That's true. Okay. How about can you kind of tell us like potential benefits and drawbacks of each path?
Ooh.
Are there
I think-
drawbacks besides
You
the
know,
judgment? Besides
finish-
judgment from others?
I think the judgment is the only drawback. And this is something that I think is such a big part of me. And it's kind of a bummer that I can't share with a lot of people because there are some times where I'm just, I want to like shout from the rooftops, like, you guys, Lucifer just helped me with this. And it was so cool. Don Kalian just helped me do this. But there's such a lack of understanding, I think, and a lot of opposition, whether people intend to or not. Or even the amount of people who will just like tune it out. But I'm like, and this, I'm like just psyched to be able to share. And so I think that's the only drawback, but the benefits are, I think, everything that we've been talking about: the freedom, the flexibility, the power, the ability to do what we want and need to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. For me, for just being a witch, the benefits are just expanding out. So many. The drawbacks, pretty much what you said too.
What drawback?
Everybody gets scared at times. My husband says, "What drawbacks?" Well,
There isn't none.
he says there isn't none, but we do have some drawbacks. Yes,
The
I think
stigma.
every path does.
Otherwise, like the occasional spell that doesn't work and then figuring out why it didn't work so that I can fix it. Like that, those are really the only drawbacks that I can think of. Or like, I guess occasionally getting accosted in the grocery store, which it
I
would
think
be
that's the
weird
biggest one.
that it happened more than once, but maybe it's the grocery store. I don't know. I live in a part of our town that has a high Baptist population,
Mhm.
and being an openly pagan witch, and I wear some slightly offensive shirts at times. The other one was I'd curse you, but you're not worth the herbs. And I had a man try to tell me that that wasn't okay, and I was like, you can't read the shirt right then, because I'm saying that I'm not going to curse you because you're not worth it. But okay, you're just scared because I'm going to curse you.
Yep.
Yeah, get that too.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I live in Los Angeles, and people talk about, oh, the spooky dark energy all over Los Angeles, and it's like, that's not mine.
No.
I'm rocking with a different dark energy.
Another question is, because I'm going to do a segment on goth, the goth lifestyle on the 21st. So I know a lot of people is like, oh, they must be gothic because the satanic or the left-hand path or anything like that. How would you explain to somebody about that? Like, we are goth, we're not goth, we kind of go both ways. What would you say?
Well, take a look at Zoe.
I have my pieces, so my earrings, they're little squirrel hands, but they also they have painted nails, painted long nails, and red ring on them.
I love that.
I do too.
Purgatory playthings on Etsy. Were once taxidermy, and now get to be close to my face all the time.
I'm
when I have the opportunity to go to the Satanic Temple, I have a hot pink dress that I plan to wear while I sit in Baphomet's Lab.
Yes.
I love it.
And I think that's one of the things for me is I love the duality of that.
Mhm.
I grew up with, my mother was a very masculine figure, I love the shock that people get when
Yes.
they're like, what do you mean? And so the hot pink dress on Baphomet's lap is like, that's like peak for me.
Yeah. Because I've gone to ritual here in thigh-high boots and booty shorts with a crop top.
Yep.
And like I'm a short man, but like I'm a burly dude.
Yep.
And like just I have absolutely no F's to give I will do what I please, and that's one of my mottos. And like, obviously, I'm wearing like a softcore goth, like kawaii Baphomet.
I love it.
Now, how about you, Mama Mage? Because I see some pictures of you, especially in Salem. You're all like, God.
Yeah, no, I do embrace that more gothic. If you can, I don't know if you can tell by my surroundings. Behind me is black, a big mirror, and I am also wearing, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I do wear more of the darker clothes, and I definitely put off the aesthetic. And I have things on my car, like bumper sticker that says "Proud Parent of Eternal Darkness," and
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
and I have a couple Satanic Temple magnets on my car too. And I keep waiting, for somebody to take
try to
those
take
or
it.
do something to them, but nobody touches any of that stuff.
Somebody
And of
will
course,
make
like in a
one.
professional setting, I do tone it down a little bit when I'm teaching and stuff like that. Although my students do like it when I'm goth, because then they're like, oh yeah, you ran all black today. Like it, you're goth.
Cool teacher here.
Well, that's the thing that some people don't realize is like there's a subculture of goth which is like academic and business wear. Like you can dress like a goth baddie and be professional. Like it can be done. My husband is also goth and used to shave his head down like all the way bald. And he's 6'1", wears the leather jacket, like Freddie Mercury without the hair. And like leather boots, the big stompers, always black. And then there's me who's like wearing the most offensive, like sacrilegious shirts possible, and my short ass standing next to him, and he's just the scary guard dog.
But you guys are so cute together.
It's a duality, I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
Like I gotta be the bubbly little like fuck around and find out, and then he's just gonna sulk over here in the corner and be like, "We're not going anywhere near that." He's not the threat. He's the teddy bear.
Yep.
Nico is.
I just saw a meme the other day of it was like, let your kids, if they're ever lost, to go to a grandma, a goth, or a gay, I think.
Yeah, yep.
You will be safe.
Mhm. The only one I would add to
It's
that
really
is a
nice.
sick man.
Yeah.
I like that. Oh, back to you, cousin. How about a next question for these lovely ladies?
Well, Forrest,
Again,
not
we
really
kind
a
of jump.
question.
We kind of jump
Yeah, we're
over
jumping around.
everything. So,
What do you
but you
feel
two are so
are
easy to talk to as well.
what do you feel are misunderstandings or misrepresentations within your practices?
To go directly off of the question, that we have to look a certain way, that we
Yep.
have to be kind of all in, that we have to practice the same thing, I think is another big one, that we all ascribe to the exact same beliefs and values and practices and all that. And I've been to literal, like true Satan ceremonies. And I remember even with those, I'm texting, our little group, and I'm like, we're doing the blood ritual. And they're like, what? Haha. And I'm like, no. Like, there's actually, like, we're putting fingers down.
Yeah. I went to an unbaptism.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's so interesting to see there's so much variation. And I think that's a big misconception of we all have to sacrifice babies and cut the heads off of chickens and this and that. And it's like those are so wildly untrue and different from what we do.
Yeah, totally agree. Yep, the same misconceptions. I have a lot of family who absolutely don't approve of what I do. I have an aunt who was a nun, and and a brother-in-law who is super Christian, and they tend to freak out over my stuff. My aunt who was a nun has written me letters, about how I'm going to hell, which is something else I don't believe in. I don't believe there's so it's just that it's evil, that it's bad, or that I am a bad person and do bad things because of my
Mhm.
path, which it's actually the opposite. You know,
Yeah.
we're the ones who are not wanting to cause harm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Do
it's such a
you-
weird view that they think that, or at least for my personal analysis, if you believe in the religion, you will go to the afterlife for the religion that you have subscribed to. So the Christians, if they have done wrong in their religion, will go to what they will create their own hell. Whereas like the pagans and all of the like witchy and spiritual people will go to their subjective afterlives. Like whether that's reincarnation or like Volkswanger, Valhalla, like the Elysian Fields, like you name it, like
Yeah.
you're gonna go where you worked.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't condemn me to somebody else's religion's afterlife. Like that's really weird.
Right, right. That's a
And-
very American Gods. Wasn't that sort of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea in American Gods? Yep.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too. I love a psychic. I love going to a psychic. I've got a lot of dead family members that I like to call upon every now and then, check in, see how they're doing. And I remember that was one in particular that always stuck out to me is the way, and you could have someone who is a practicing into religion here for their whole lives, and
Mhm.
they pass and they're not even in that place anymore.
Oh, yeah.
They
Or
put
their
themselves
ego
somewhere
changed.
different.
Yeah, they
You
lose
know.
their ego after they pass, and they're like, well, my
I
great
don't care.
grandma was super like anti like LGBT and like super Catholic, and then now she's like over here helping me with witchcraft, and is like, what happened to you? Like, can you explain how we went from A to B? Like,
Yep.
and I mean, not all ancestors are gonna like, if they don't ascend, they're not gonna quite get there. They're still gonna be grumpy about things, but it's so humorous. The ones that
It
do
is.
ascend, and it's like, what what did you learn over there that like changed your whole view on things? Like,
I have my dad's dad who is. I remember the first time I ever got to talk to him via psychic, of course, and the psychic was like, he's still really into the idea that like heaven and God, like he's very like still he's worshiping God a lot still. I rarely see that. It's very rare. And I thought that was so interesting because I was like, really? Like that religion too?
yeah,
They're not just giving it up. So
So
interesting.
do you both do Ouija boards too, or seance or
Love a
anything?
Ouija board.
I love them. They're so
Heck
fun.
yeah.
The
First Ouija
debauchery,
board
like,
I ever did. And this is the funny story too. I hadn't touched a Ouija board until I was like 22 years old, and I did it with Mama Mage in the middle of a like super haunted cemetery. And who came through? It was a demon that came through, and that is when I felt the safest. And that is when I was like, "This is it. I love a Ouija board."
I
Oh,
love that.
So
I
the
wish more
Ouija,
people.
the Ouija board museum in Salem was one of my
Oh,
favorite
yes.
places.
yes.
And the curator of that museum, he knows so much about Ouija boards, and there were that's an amazing place. It was one of my
Yes.
favorite places
So
there.
many different types. I
Yeah.
mean, beautiful boards. I mean,
I'm
beautiful.
just putting this
Yeah.
out there. If anybody in Omaha has one of the Ouija boards that were created in the factory here in the 40s through the 60s, and they're willing to part with it, I will take it. I want one of them. There's maybe a few hundred around still, but I absolutely would love one of them just because it's a weird witchy Omaha history. And I found out recently that we had a Ouija board factory at one point, and I really want one.
I didn't know that. That's pretty
I
cool.
did.
Did they
I'm
make Did they make the William Fold
I
Ouija
believe
boards?
so.
The classical.
Yep.
Oh, because I have a couple, and I'll have to check and see where they were made. Although I think because they made them in Massachusetts too, in Salem.
Yeah.
So I'll check and see where they were made because I have couple Ouija boards that are class. I have 3, I think actually. So I'll look.
Because I have one of the newer ones, which it works,
Yeah.
but they're cardboard, and I'm not a huge fan of it. And I do have other means and other spirit boards, but I'm a weird like occult history nerd. and I've been delving into like the weird occult histories within my town here, and found that out. And I was like, I need one of these.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have two of my kids. My youngest son, my youngest daughter. They're Ouija happy. I mean, I think every time we go there to visit, it's like, hey, you want to do the Ouija board?
Mhm. Ouija board,
Because they don't
spirit
have anybody
box. Yep.
around their area to do it. So when we come in, it's like, Mom, Dad, do this with us. And it's like, okay, you know. See,
I get the
Scott's
rude ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting to me. And something I learned in the museum was that at one time there was a Ouija board in almost every home. It was
Yeah.
a very common thing to have, and everybody did them. But then the movie The Exorcist came out, which of course was based on a true story. But to enhance that story, they made up a part that he had done a Ouija board, which he never had. But it was a
Yeah.
boy in real life. So the boy in real life had never done the Ouija board, but Reagan in the movie did a Ouija board, and they blamed the demon possessing her on the Ouija board. And that's when it was just kind of a satanic panic for
Yep.
Ouija boards. They weren't afraid of them until that
Well,
movie came out. So
Fun fact for people, if you didn't know, Ouija boards in the Victorian era were actually used as a speed dating game. So it was a way that you could touch your partner across the table. You would touch their hands with the planchettes, and it was very taboo for you to touch a woman's hand, or like in general, without like her father's permission. And
Mhm.
so this was a way for you to get knee to knee, hand to hand, and like have a conversation. And it moved into the seance era and kind of blew up from there. But it was originally a speed dating game.
I will also add that there is sort of, if you're familiar with egregores or thought forms, there is a Ouija board demon that has kind of
Pazuzu,
come into existence, and it's
He
Zozo.
comes all the time.
Zozo, and
Yeah.
Pazuzu.
Always
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll tell me
It's very
my
harmless.
nickname
Harmless.
is Zozo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I've
My
asked him
youngest son.
before, why are you? And he'll just come in. He'll just mess with me at this point.
Yeah.
Like I'll get, because it's the whole thing. It goes from A to Z,
Yeah.
and I got to pull it away. And I'm like, back up, my guy.
Yeah, usually he'll come through first, and we just say, "Okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Go away," and then because it's just like a little pest, and then
Yeah.
everything's fine. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
for
my son got him one time and he panicked. He's like, Mom, I got this demon. I'm like, well, what's the name? And he was telling me, I'm like, oh, you're okay. You're fine. And then he goes, Are you sure? I was like, yes, Jay, you're fine. So,
like, I never understood the stigma with Ouija boards because, like, as far as disembodied spirits go, like, demons absolutely chill. Do not care. Give them respect. We're cool. Really, really angry, violent, disembodied human spirits have a
mhm.
problem. Like, those are true monsters, in my opinion. And, like, I don't know what you're gonna do. Like, you poltergeist, like, you're gonna throw something across the room or whatever. But like, as far as my practice goes, like, that's like the true evil is like man. Man is the true evil. um, and I hope that that kind of answers the question why Ouija's get the bad reputation. Is that people think that demons are bad spirits, and they're really not. They're just spirits. And if you treat any spirit with respect, they will give you respect back. But understand that every non-human spirit does not abide by the morality subjective to man, and that that is a concept solely to man. So what
Mhm.
is inherent to their nature may not be the best for humans, and that's okay because they exist in a place outside of human morality, because
Mhm.
it's just that. It's the same with the Fae. Like, there are good and bad Fae, there are good and bad every kind of disembodied human spirits. So unless they've incarnated as a human, they don't have a concept of good and evil as morality.
Mhm. And here's another comment from Christopher, which
Familiar
we
with
kind of
egregores?
answered that already.
Yep. Familiar
Right.
with egregores, thought forms, tulpas, and crafting spirits and hive minds and conscious collectiveness, and making universes for people to visit. Absolutely, those are super fun. Making tulpas is a very interesting process. If our viewers aren't familiar with that, or egregores, where you're essentially feeding a conscious projection, and over time it gains its own consciousness, and then tulpas eventually get their own physical manifestation of sorts,
Mhm.
where they become a very real entity, and they're super interesting. Also, as somebody who does house cleansings, they're really difficult to get rid of when you have to unmake them.
Yes. I have one last question here. So the energies now, are they different than other paths energies, or pretty much the same, similar?
There's so many different faces. Like different spirits will have different energies and like different things they're good at, and like the known and unknown, and
Yeah.
they all bring something different to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the energies are, it's like, being in a room of people, right? Some people just feel differently. Some people, you're going to click with.
Right.
It's interesting. Demons always feel very intense, but a good intenseness. I've never felt uncomfortable. I've never felt unsafe. I've never felt unsure. It's like almost having like a puppy dog, right? Who are like, I'm so ready for you. And they're just so eager. Angels to me feel a little bit more standoffish. They're a little bit more not humble necessarily, but like, poised, precise. They're
Mhm.
gonna make you learn. You're gonna learn alongside of them. They're gonna pull you through. You're gonna get through, but you're gonna learn with them. They're gonna make sure learning is at the forefront.
Mhm.
Other spirits, the same thing. There's others that are more, I don't want to say friendly because that assumes that there's something that's not friendly, but it's I would say the same as people, or similar to people, right? Some people are really bubbly and excited and happy. Some people are kind of standoffish and are leaders or teachers or, and I think that plays through in a lot of the energies that we work with, or at least, yeah, in my experience.
Cool. So, Nick, do you have any more questions?
Oh, I think I added some earlier. Let me see if we haven't answered them. What do you wish people outside of your practices knew about your practice?
You just muted yourself.
I did. It's mainly because my dog is chewing
Oh,
on. And I'm afraid, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but he's back there just gnawing so loud. I'm like, people are gonna think I have a
can answer if you need to. Do you want me to take it?
Sure.
You talk.
Okay. What I wish people would know about my practice is that I'm not a bad person because of my practice. Which, I mean, it should seem obvious. I'm not out doing horrible things in the world. I'm a human rights commissioner. I fight for civil rights. I fight for human rights. I mean, this is something I feel very passionately I need to do. But I think people have just gotten so, Christianity has just become ingrained in the way some people have been brought up. And it's such a deep conditioning that it's really hard for people to get rid of that conditioning. And so when they hear Lucifer, they think, the devil in the Bible, which is not at all, what I'm working with. That's not it at all. So I guess that's it. I just wish people would understand that because my practice is different from theirs. My practice is not Christian. That I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a great example of that. My mom, or both of my parents, know that I'm practicing witch. They don't know the whole of my practice, but they know enough that they're aware of what I do. They know I go to pagan events. They know that I do witchcraft. My brother's fully aware of it. And we were at a pagan event, and I'm sending my mom this picture of we had a goat rescue. as a petting zoo for the little kids, and we were bottle feeding the goats. And of course, like I sent a picture to my mom of my husband bottle feeding this adorable baby goat, and she knew that we were at a pagan event, and she's like, "The goat is not a part of the ritual, is it?" And I was like, "Mom, it's a petting zoo. It's a petting zoo. Like
That's my
have you-
cousin saying
I
that.
lived with you for 20 years. Have you ever seen me bring a goat home? I mean, not that I would not as a pet, but like I was a practicing witch in your house since I was 14. Have you ever seen me bring an animal home to sacrifice? Because I'm sure you'd be fully aware if I had." And she was like, valid point. And I was like, okay. I just want you to be aware of how like what? Like my mom. And I'm sitting there like we've had this like a 4-hour conversation about like spirituality and like what I believe in. And like it was great. My parents are Catholic, and like they've been super chill about it like the entire time. Like they bought me books, crystals, you name it. And they're not fully aware that I work with a folkloric devil, and that's probably a conversation for a different time. But I was just sitting there like, you lived with me and you still had this weird like assumption that this was a possibility. And I'm sitting there like, we're in the parking lot of a metaphysical shop with a petting zoo. And I'm just sitting there like, Mom, there's literally kids here. Like, this is an all ages pagan festival. There are toddlers here. Like, no.
And his mom is my cousin. So, yeah. So, but I just want to say one last thing. Mama Mage, Zoe, do you have anything else to add before we say goodbye?
Join the left-hand path. Go, Lucifer.
Well said.
Ave Satanas.
Oh, this has been fun. Thank you for having us.
Oh, yeah, this has been great.
It's
it's
it's been a pleasure. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm just like, I don't know nobody. And then it's like the ones I do know, they don't want to say nothing. They want to be all quiet and
Oh,
everything.
yeah, I had some friends
like,
that I
oh.
wanted to bring up for it, but they're a little zesty as far
yeah.
as like they're very opinionated left-hand practitioners. And I was like, I don't like, are they knowledgeable? Yes. Are they very abrasive to like a decent amount of people? Probably. Because like they're gonna be up here like damning the Christians. I'm sitting there like, we don't need that. Like, no, I want like, is it funny? Kind of. But I don't need to like throw that all over everything.
Yeah.
We do have one last question that's from a friend of mine. There you go.
Came in a little late to the discussion. When you were talking about Lucifer, you're talking about the Lightbringer, or is it a different thing? There are many forms, but yes.
Basically, like for me, I'm speaking of Lucifer as an ancient god from Greco-Roman paganism. Not Lucifer the Bible, but still, yes, Lightbringer, absolutely, and all about enlightenment.
Yep, because in Strega we have Lucifer as a Tuscan pantheon, and then the Greco-Roman, one of his epithets is Phosphoros, which is the Dawnbringer.
Yep.
And that
because he was. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can finish.
Lucifer was the translation from the Latin Vulgate, which translated to Lightbringer, and then he was known as Phosphoros, and then associated with Venus, but also possibly associated with Apollo or Hephaestus as other aspects, or possibly epithets of him, or those two gods.
And also considered sometimes to be the son of Aurora.
Yep.
Yep. Or Dawn. Yep.
and then Instrega, the father of Aradia, who is the goddess of witches.
Cool.
I'm sorry, I keep looking over. My husband keeps commenting. It's like, do you want to talk? Do you want to talk? And he's like, oh no, you guys are doing good.
Put him in. Give him a bubble.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. No,
I'll
he
chew on you, baby.
But
he
I think I'm
does
the
this
only one up
all
here
the
who
time.
works with.
Oh.
I guess my version of like Satan, Lucifer, the devil is slightly different because I work with kind of the puritanical version of the devil, like the giver of knowledge, the keeper of secrets, the witch's devil.
Yeah.
And that this is that being of duality who is both very gracious and giving of knowledge, but also very temperamental, but is kind of like the father of witchcraft for us, which does have like a darker aspect, but it's also over a Christian lens that was heavily demonized. But it's more akin to Cernunnos or Pan or like the Valis, the gods of the forest,
Mhm.
and that's very much where I view him as, is that he is like the father of natural world, and that like this keeper of esoteric knowledge, and that's where most of our rituals with him come from, is that the
Right.
pursuit of these knowledge and like hidden secrets
Mhm.
and asking for assistance with things.
Yeah. Well, any last words before we end the live?
Thank you for having us. I hope that
Thank you
people
guys
have
for
learned
coming.
something.
Yeah, thank you
I do
very much.
too.
It's wonderful.
And
This is one of my favorite things to talk about.
yeah, subscribe to the channel of Within the Cauldron. We do have a Facebook group called Within the Cauldron as well. But subscribe, spread the podcast, share it, and subscribe.
And do you lovely ladies have anywhere on socials that you would like people to find you?
Yes.
Well, I'm on Blue Sky and Red Note right now. So I am. Who am I on Blue Sky? Am I Mama Mage? I might be. I'm either Witch Brew or a Mama Mage. Waltz Brew or Mama Mage, one or the other.
That's the one your last name. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just remember.
Yeah.
How about
I'm
you,
Zoe H2O on just about everything. I'm transitioning over to Blue Sky a little bit more, but Zoe H2O is constant on all.
Oh, great. Well, it's nice to have you ladies on. And I just want to say good night and blessings to everybody. And love and light in your heart and soul. And be you. And don't be afraid to be you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.